What is good, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video as we are here for another Ring of Honor TV review, another loaded episode and video here, as this is the first episode post Death Before Dishonor, an extremely loaded weekend for Ring of Honor related things, coming off a pay-per-view and several or three, I wasn't trying to hype, but 3 title changes is a lot, considering I think there's 7 championships in ROH. World TV, women's TV, pure tag, and 6-man. So yeah, a lot has happened in Ring of Honor over the past week or so. I will go over my highlights of Death Before Dishonor prior to this review, and then we'll have the review part. If you're here strictly for the review, I will try to remember to put a timestamp. So, starting it off, Death Before Dishonor, my highlights / recap. And the TV review started off with a recap of Death Before Dishonor via one of the new heads. What was his exact title? Board of Director member, Paul White. But my notes, following my predictions, I said I think the 2 matches of the night would be the Lights Out match and the World Heavyweight title match. And in my opinion, I was correct with both. The Lights Out match was great, with Layla Hirsch defeating Diamante and fracturing her elbow, as the finishing sequence of the match involved her moonsaulting off of a ladder onto a table. There are several crazy things that happened in that match, but that was the ending of it. Like I said, very enjoyable match. And the World Heavyweight title match, Mark Briscoe finally able to defeat Roderick Strong and retain his world championship. And Mark Briscoe has been an extremely busy man, following Blood and Guts, following Death Before Dishonor. I'm pretty sure he had a match at Collision. He had a match this week on Dynamite, and I'm pretty sure he's got another match this week on Collision. So hopefully our World Heavyweight Champion can stay safe. Now, the title changes that did happen. Red Velvet defeated Billy Starks to become the 2nd ever women's television champion I was very surprised that this happened. Starks, again, in the very first women's TV title match, faked an injury that led to her victory, and she tried to do the same here, and it did not bode well. Like I said, I'm a bit shocked, because it just feels that this Starks title reign never really picked up. To be fair, it just really began. I know that we're in August now, which is crazy, but she won the championship in April, and there's just nothing really notable that happened in it. It sucks, but it is what it is. Now, we have a new pure champion, and that is Lee Moriarty, who defeated Wheeler Yuta. A great decision here. I'm glad that Lee Moriarty is the champion and getting something that he very much earned and deserves. He's talked for a while about wanting to be the pure champion. He even had a promo tonight on ROH mentioning that he's one of the best pure wrestlers in the world, and now he can showcase that by being the pure champion. I will also say that it is weird, because I'm trying to think, but Wheeler Yuta in the majority of this Tony Khan era of ROH has been the pure champion, first ever 3-time champion, but it's just it was Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia for an extremely short period, back to Wheeler Yuta, Katsuyori Shibata had a great reign, and then it was back to Wheeler Yuta, and I will say this last reign was not that good because he was injured for a great majority of it, and then he finally returned and lost the championship. So hopefully we see more of Lee Moriarty and defending the pure championship, of course, on ROH programming. And then the last note, this did not even happen at Death Before Dishonor, but we had another Ring of Honor title change, as the vacant 6-man tag team championships have new champions. Extremely surprised. And I mentioned this last week that Dustin Rhodes made his Ring of Honor debut first appearance, and I'm like, wow, what world are we in that Dustin Rhodes is on ROH? And have to follow it up a week later with mentioning that he is a champion in ROH, as Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erich brothers defeated the Undisputed Kingdom at Battle of the Belts this past Saturday, crowning new 6-man tag team champions. I will also say there is a large portion of, I'm going to say a large portion is a bit extreme, but there's a portion of AEW / Ring of Honor fans and wrestling fans in general that feel there are too many championships in AEW and by virtue ROH because you merge. And there's almost like 14. I don't want to, I know I just counted all the ROH championships, but like AEW, I'm going to count it any damn ways. We got the AEW World title, TNT title, TBS title, International title, Continental title, Trios title, Tag Team title, FTW title. So, 7 plus 7 is 14. So, 15. I know I just said that because I had an extra hand. But, and I feel like I'm forgetting something. I don't know if I just included the FTW title or not. The thing is, so many fans were like happy, like, yes, they finally are getting rid of the ROH Tag Team titles because they were vacant and disappeared because they were unified with the AEW Trios titles, and that made sense. Just for them to be brought back. And I laugh at it because it doesn't really bother me that much, but I know that it does bother some fan base. But if you were to ask me, who do you think deserved or would be, I think the better question would be, who would be the next Ring of Honor 6-man tag team champions? No way in hell would I expected Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs to be the answer to that. And it is very fitting because they kicked off this episode of Ring of Honor, episode number 75. I will say there were several backstage interviews post Death Before Dishonor, but I kind of covered the most important things from that. But if I mentioned some, I mentioned some. Like I said, first matchup of tonight's episode was for the 6-man tag team titles. Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs versus Jacked Jameson and the Iron Savages. Jameson and Ross start the match off, and Jameson does not really want any part of this after Ross is able to do push-ups, and he does the push-ups where he like claps his hands in between, and Jameson didn't really want to have to deal with him after that because he was serious business. The Von Erichs double team on Boulder to get him off of his feet, but the more impressive thing is that Dustin was able to handle both the Iron Savage members at once, but that comes toppling down as he gets stuck in his opponent's corner. Boulder's big splash on Dustin gets a 2 count. While it takes some time, Marshall is able to body slam Boulder, knocking him out of the ring. Dustin hits a Canadian Destroyer on Bronson, and then Dustin tries to do the Shattered Dreams corner kick to the man area on Jameson, but the referee won't allow it to happen. That while the referee is arguing with Dustin, the Von Erichs sneak off and kick Jameson with their own version of the Shattered Dreams, and then the match wraps up with the Von Erichs hitting a Iron Claw choke slam combo onto Jameson, retaining the ROH 6-man tag team championships. As next we have another tag team match, this one in the 2-on-2 division. Top Flight versus the Ace of Space Academy, LSG and GKM. Now, I know LSG stands for Leo St. Giovanni because he used to compete in ROH a lot in the past. I don't know what GKM it stands for. I apologize. But the most notable thing that came out of this is that Top Flight kind of are starting to build up that they are high flyers. More importantly, have developed a airplane airplane presence because at the beginning of their intro is like you're about to enter the Top Flight, and they'd have a new manager who is their flight attendant, and that is Layla Gray. I spent a lot of time explaining that, but they made a big deal about it. LSG and Dante start the match off. Ace of Space Academy have the advantage after a poke to the eye to Dante, but most of this matchup is high-flying maneuvers, I guess pun intended there, by Top Flight, and they win the matchup with a spinning TKO on GKM. Now, we have a backstage interview with the Infantry, who are very upset, and mainly at Top Flight, and saying that they thought that they were the most popular tag team in ROH. Now, you'd have to do a poll, because I don't know who would really... If you were to ask a Ring of Honor viewer, if you were to ask me, you'd have to give me a week. I'll think about it. But if you were to ask, who's the most popular tag team in ROH? The Infantry, they thought it was them, and that they don't get the same opportunities as other teams, and that every time they turn around on every TV show, every episode of AEW Dynamite, Collision, Rampage, they named off all the shows, and ROH, that Top Flight is there, which, to be fair, kudos to Top Flight, but the Infantry do compete a lot on ROH, and they're very upset about all this, but they will speak and have another segment later on that will come back to this. Next matchup is Robin Renegade versus Maya World. Both spilled to the outside after battling on the apron for a bit, but this is a extremely quick bout with Robin winning the match after hitting a super kick and a rip tide. Now, an extremely interesting development comes about here as Anthony Henry is asked, where is JD Drake? It has been a while since we have seen JD Drake. I have definitely been thinking the same thing. If he is injured, they have not really mentioned it. But before he is even able to answer, he is interrupted by his cousin, Beef. That is his name, Beef. Now, I do not know much about Beef. I know that he is Anthony Henry's cousin, his second cousin by marriage. We learned that now. I am fairly certain that he had a 6-man tag team match several weeks ago on ROH, because I'm like, the name was Beef. It is extremely weird that we on ROH have Beef, and we have Beefcake Boulder. I don't think that is Beefcake Bronson. I just might have made that up, but it was definitely Beefcake Boulder. So, 2 beef-related things on ROH programming. And he did not know that they were on TV and they need to prepare for Anthony Henry's match later on. As now, we get to the match of the night. This is a fantastic match. Highly recommend you checking it out. The Beast Mortos versus AR Fox. I was excited for this match. It is very fast-paced early on. Fox hits a swanton dive to the outside, and then he starts to celebrate by running around the ring just to get punched by the Beast Mortos, and then Mortos does the same thing and ends up having AR Fox dive onto him. A pop-up Samoan drop by Mortos gets a 2 count. Fox fights back with some clotheslines and drop kicks, and then Fox hits another swanton dive to the outside, and then back in the ring hits a 450 splash for a 2 count. Mortos applies a torture rack into a backbreaker and a lariat. This is all for a 2 count. It was very vicious and effective. I thought that was going to be the end. It was not, but the end does come after Mortos hits a sit-out tombstone. I always enjoy watching the Beast Mortos. He's competed at Death Before Dishonor last week. He competed on Dynamite this week. He competed on ROH this week. If he has a match on Collision, which I hope he does, I will be interested. But like I said, love watching the Beast Mortos. Also love watching AR Fox. It sucks because he had something going for him last year, and then just out of nowhere it disappeared, and we were having a good run, and then it kind of just feels forgotten. So it's always good to see AR Fox competing, as we have another tag team to mention, another tag team promo. This one being from the MXM. I almost combined their names. MXM Collection, who introduced the fans of the Ring of Hotties, and that they are part of the Ring of Hotties collection, and that all the fans have been eating up what they've been doing, competing at Death Before Dishonor last week, competing on Collision last week. I have mentioned Collision so freaking much on this episode, and that they are taking all comers and always come out on top. So we'll be interested to see what they do in Ring of Honor, because they've only had 1 match, but they are having a match this week on Rampage, so they're competing in AEW, so it is what it is. Not going to complain about watching them, because they're entertaining. As now we get to another great matchup in the... It's not really, you could say it's in the Pure division, but it wasn't a Pure Rules match, but it is Anthony Henry and former Pure champion Wheeler Yuta with Beef in the crowd at ringside. Henry lands a forearm, and Yuta fights back with a senton. The two then clobber each other on the outside in front of Beef. Yuta places Henry's face onto the turnbuckle post, taking the padding off and putting his face right onto it. Both exchange submission holds. Henry reverses a lariat attempt into an armbar, with Yuta fighting out of this to apply an ankle lock. The two exchange punches until they both are fallen to the ground. The two land stomps on one another, with Henry eventually being knocked out from this, and Yuta following that up with a roll-up that Henry was not able to kick out of. I will say a couple minutes later, we get a backstage segment where Henry's going to speak again, and he's interrupted by Beef, and Henry's like, I'm mad, I just lost, and Beef was mentioning that in our family, we do not lose, that we just take opportunity by opportunity. So I wonder how much longer this will last, and being involved. And again, where the hell is JD Drake? Two quick matchups follow this first one being Tony Nese and Ari Daivari versus Nikki and Tony, the Superstars, with a Z instead of an S at the end. Like I said, an extremely quick matchup with the premier athletes dominating and winning after a Daivari frog splash. I will say there is a funny thing that happened after this match, and Daivari was getting into the face of a fan at ringside, and the fan had his phone out and was yelling at Daivari still, and Daivari was not really paying attention to what he was saying. Next matchup, like I said, extremely quick. Jacoby Watts versus Fuego del Sol. Back-to-back weeks that we have seen him compete. Fuego lands a nice drop kick after Watts is done talking on the microphone. The match was a good showcase for Fuego as he wins with a tornado DDT again. Now, our last matchup that takes place, but we had a lot that followed this, so it is not the last thing that happened on this episode. But this last matchup was Brian Cage versus Rocky Romero. It's been a while since we've seen Rocky Romero, but he competes tonight. Back and forth early with the tide turning after Cage hits a superplex. Romero hits a Shiragoi on the apron, and then Romero tries to hit it in the ring, but Cage reverses it into an F5 for a 2 count. Romero's Hurricane Rana and Shiragoi again gets another 2 count. Cage's sit-out powerbomb gets a 2 count, and we see a third Shiragoi by Rocky Romero. His finisher move, this time off of the second rope, only gets a 2 count as Cage is able to hit the drill claw and win this matchup. So now we go to the backstage area where the Undisputed Kingdom are being interviewed and say that they will do whatever it takes to still be the tag team champions, and mention that they are the best tag team in the world, which in a world where the Motor City Machine Guns still exist, I will not agree with. And that they're almost approaching 1 year's champion, which I will say is insane. I definitely feels insane that we're in August, but this title reign did begin in December. And trivia for y'all, if y'all remember, who were the previous tag team champions? Do you remember? It was Better Than You, Baby. That's how long ago, this reign started. Holy crap. But these two, the Undisputed Kingdom, are interrupted by the Infantry and have mentioned everything that they have done since their last matchup at Supercard of Honor, and want a rematch. They want another opportunity at the two, and the Kingdom are willing to oblige because they expect the same result to be had. As now, our last thing that happens on this episode, we see Dustin Rhodes again, which it's good in introducing him again to the Ring of Honor environment. He is back out, and he does mention off the top that the Von Erichs have already went home, which they had a reason to go home. It's not they had to go. They had to do something, so that's why they went home. But it is weird because he cuts a very heartfelt and meaningful promo after it. So you would imagine your tag partners would be there, but they had something to do. They had to beat that over your head for what follows this. But of note of what he says, that it means so much for him to, this late into his career, winning another championship, because it's been a long time since he had. Now, I did not fact check this, but unless he was 24/7 champion in WWE, which I don't think that title was invented until after he had left, I think the last titles he held were the tag team championships with Stardust, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I should have fact checked it, but I feel that was what that was. But the championship and the fans mean so much and add so much to him, and that he does not know how long this last ride will last. He was expecting this last ride to be done 5 years ago, but it is still going and that he wants more. And this infuriates Evil Uno, who mentions that Dustin Rhodes has been taking up so much time for the past 5 decades, which is not exactly 50 years, but it is 5 different decades that he has competed, obviously. And that he is mad that Dustin Rhodes out here taking up more time and more opportunity, and that Evil Uno has been here almost every week trying to build up something that Dustin Rhodes just came out of nowhere and ended up taking it, and that he does not care who his family is and what the hell Dustin Rhodes does, and now it is time to take something from Dustin Rhodes. That prompts Alex Reynolds and John Silver to attack. And something, I'm not going to say it was controversial, but I saw this all over the timeline, and so this was spoiled. But Sammy Guevara makes his first ROH appearance as he comes to save the day for Dustin Rhodes and sends the Dark Order packing, and the episode ends with Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara shaking hands. Now, I have no clue what to expect from Sammy Guevara in ROH. A lot of people do not. It's weird because I feel that like the timeline that I follow for AEW and Ring of Honor in this instance are extremely negative, and so everybody's like, "Go away, just go away, Sammy." And he has been away. To be fair, why? Depending on who you ask, it might be a different reason. But I will say, if you can have a big impact or do at least what you, let me change that up. I compare this to WWE and NXT. If you're on the main roster for a time period and you're not doing much, and then they send you to NXT and you don't make some noise or do anything of importance or have some bangers, I will use an example, that being Baron Corbin, where he was not doing anything from the main roster. Then he went back to NXT and the fans started enjoying and respecting him again and caring for him. So I feel that this is somewhat the same with Sammy. And again, this might just have been a one-off appearance, to be fair. I will say it would be extremely odd for that to happen because it is a somewhat big return. But I don't think that this deserved as much of a spark, or outrage would be too big of a word to describe it, but this got a lot of attention and it seemed a little bit weird. So we will obviously see what follows this, as this was the end of this episode. Like I said, an extremely lot happened this week with Ring of Honor, new champions, very good episode of ROH, a very good pay-per-view last week, and we'll see what the hell happens afterwards. So we had a long review here. It was somewhat expected, so I hope you did enjoy this video. If not, I don't know. I don't know why the hell I even thought that. But with that being the case, I'm wrapping this video up. It is done. Hopefully you'll like and subscribe. You stay safe. And I'll see you in the next one, because I'm out.